Hi, my name is Tom Chu, and today I'm going to show you a trick that I saw a person named Gavin Huey do. It's been a long time since I saw it, but we'll try to recreate it and see. What it is, it's creating a film strip effect to display your image. Now, let's just create a new document, and let's use something kind of small. Um, Maybe let's try paper, like a US paper, 8.5 by 11. We can leave it at 300, it's not so big. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to put some kind of texture on this. Now you know that I've got lots of textures. Um, I've got brushes and all kinds of things that we could paint textures on. For example, let's look here in the brushes, and you see that I've got all kinds of little texture brushes. Well, there's ways to create textures without using brushes. If you go to um, Filter and Render and go to Fibers, okay, it'll pull up this dialog. And you can choose how much variance you want in these fibers. And you can choose the strength of the fibers. So if you want them to be like strong fibers, more or less variance. Okay, kind of this will be like a grungy kind of a background. And you can randomize it so it doesn't look like the start. So you can hit that a couple times until it's kind of the way you like it. And this looks okay to me. Click OK, and you see how it applies this fibrous background. But we want to blur it maybe a little bit. So if we go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, you can blur it. Now, it doesn't have to be really blurry, but somewhat blurry, because this is kind of like a background. Okay, so that looks good for me. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a new layer. And on this layer, we're going to put a film strip. Inside of Photoshop, there's some hidden shape layers. Okay, in earlier versions of Photoshop, there's some icons on the side. If you hover them, you'll find one that says shape layer. In CS6, it's a drop down box. Pixels, paths, or shapes. If you work on the shape layer, it will keep your whatever shape you create a vector, so you can resize it and it won't lose its resolution, or its the way it looks. It won't look deteriorated. So if you go over here to your shape menu, you can pull up all these cool shapes. And if you go to this drop down box, you can click one that says film. So when you click on it, you want to say append, and it will add it to your existing brushes. So if you come down here, you'll see this film strip. Alright. So what you do is double click on this, and then just come over here and just drag out your film strip, kind of however you want it. Okay. And now, if you do Control T, or that's Command T on the Mac, you can rotate this around, and then when you transform it, it stays nice and sharp. Okay. So let's kind of position this thing at an angle here, maybe something like this. And the idea is we want to put a picture in one of these film strips. Okay, so let's make this a little bit bigger. Maybe something like that. Okay. So we're going to click enter. And now we've got our film strip. But we want to apply some things to it. We want to change the color. We want to put a drop shadow. And in order to do that, click on this little FX. And these are blending options. Okay. So let's choose drop shadow. Okay. And with this dialog pulled up, we'll go to our drop shadow, and maybe we'll increase the distance and the size a little bit, and then we can drag this thing kind of out like this. Okay. If we don't want it to be too far away, you can control it there. And we won't our size too much so you can't see it, but maybe the light's coming from this way or like this way. You have to remember a picture is going to be covering this up, so probably looks better if it was lit from the top coming down. Something like that. Okay. So we've got our drop shadow. And maybe I'll increase the spread a little bit. Click OK. Well, actually, I want to do some more blending options. So if you click on blending options, we will do a color overlay, and this will change our color. Now, depending on the image that you're going to use, determines the color. So the image that I'm going to use is inside Lightroom, okay, and it's this one. So I see yellows in this image. So I'm going to use a yellow color. Under the color overlay, we'll click this box, and we'll do something in the yellowish orangish maybe. All right. So we'll click OK there. And then if it's too bright, we can drag the opacity down. Now I see that when I drag the opacity down, it gets kind of dark. So I might want to go to an orange color, like a darker orange. I just want something in the same hue. Yeah, this will work. Maybe something like that. Alright. Now, I want to give this film strip some depth. So if we just click bevel and emboss, you see how that makes it kind of pop out some? Okay, so that gives it some depth to that little film strip. And if you click contour, this will also help. And then if you do texture, you can change what kind of textures you want to add to it. For example, we can add these paper textures. If you click over here to the on your right drop down, you can see that there's some paper textures, uh, grayscale paper. Okay, and if you click append, it will add it in. And I've already added it, but we'll do it again. And you can just choose different paper textures. You see that gives like a pea kind of texture. When I say pea kind of texture, I mean pea gravel. Some of these are not as predominant. I kind of like this one here. Now, there's some other things we could do to this. Is we could add another layer over top of it for kind of like a lighting effect. So let's create a new layer, and we're going to go to filter, and we're going to try maybe render, and then add this one called clouds. Okay. Now if it's not completely over, you can change that, but let's change this opacity down a little bit, and let's change the blend mode to something that looks good. Do you see how that changed how dark that was? So you can go through your blending modes and check it how you think it should look. I kind of like the way this hard light's working. Maybe linear light. I'm not digging that. Let's go back up to the top and just see how this works when we go down. The color burn looks pretty good. So I'm going to use color burn, and we can bring the opacity up or down on this. Alright, so now we've got that. We just need to add in our image. So to get our image in, let's go into Lightroom and select anyone that you want and just hit Command E or Control E. It's Control E on Windows, Command E on a Mac as an Edward, and it will just open the image inside of Photoshop for you. Going to hit Control A or Command A to select it all, and Control C as in Charlie or Command C to copy. In a new layer, we're going to do Control V or Command V on a Mac, and that's just going to paste this image in to that layer. Now you'll see that this shape, it's above all the other layers. We need it to be underneath the film strip, so we need it to kind of drag this down a little bit. And you can see when it highlights the bars in between, now it's below the film strip. You'll see that the effect is over top of the image from the clouds and the overlay, so it's kind of affecting how the image looks. So we'll mask that off. But before we do that, let's get this image to fit in one of these film strips. So we're going to do Control T or free transform. So let's drag the image down. in size. If you hold down the shift key when you're grabbing these corners, it will constrain it. Okay, so just go to a corner and it'll let you rotate it. Okay, so we kind of get it to fit the way we want, and I'm just picturing the head fit in there. Okay, so we'll do that. Oop, we don't want to do that. Maybe a little bit bigger so it fits right behind. And something like that. We're going to hit enter. So now we need to put on a layer mask. So I'm going to hide everything. I'm going to hold down the Alt key and hide that. And I'm just going to paint it back in with my brush. Okay? So grab our brush tool. I grabbed the wrong thing. Let's deselect it. Grab our brush tool, and we'll be painting in white. We're going to bring back in our image for our film strip. Make sure my opacity is at 100% when I'm painting here. And we'll just paint that back in. And if you don't like the way that looks, you can just, repaint it. Make sure my hardness is set so it's not bleeding below. So we'll just paint this baby in a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. And to get that effect off of her face, we're going to have to go up here to this, because if you see we click it away, it definitely affects the way this looks. So let's just put a layer mask on there. Okay, and then we're going to flip this, and painting with black, we can just remove that effect from the image itself, but it stays on all the rest of the image. Let me back this off and feather this brush a little bit here. It looks like I need to do some more painting on that layer below. I need to exit and finish painting in that corner. Okay, so let's go back up to the top. Let's finish getting rid of that. Hit X key. We'll just remove it all off of our image here. Okay, so don't worry about getting rid of it on the paint strip, because we're going to hit X again, and we're just going to click right here on the edge. Then you're going to hold down the shift key and go all the way down here, and you're going to click again, and it will just click a straight line when you're painting with the brush. So we click there, we'll hold the shift key down, and we'll click again when it's lined up, and it just fills it all in. So there you have a film strip effect that's kind of 3D with some kind of lighting inside Photoshop. It's a kind of a neat way to display your images, and it doesn't take any kind of textures outside of Photoshop. Everything is inside Photoshop, whether it's a shape or a texture or under that those fibers or clouds overlays. So you don't have to go out and find anything. I think there's some more stuff here I need to paint a little bit. I can see it on her face. Yeah, let's get all this off her face and clean it up nice. Yeah, so there it is. I want to thank you all for taking time to visit my blog today, and until next time, we'll see you soon.